Okay, episode 3. Again, there's so much to talk about. I'm trying to keep these videos short. We'll see if I succeed. I'm going to talk about the imminent death of BTC is my topic today, and also the Innovators dilemma. And then I'm going to try to sneak in some information about this hard fork, some actually useful, tangible information. And then I'm going to try to get to your questions. If you have questions, send them in. I'll get to them, maybe. So the imminent death of BTC. I mean, well, that's an outrageous thing to say, of course. And, I hope I'm wrong about that. But first on my list of hyperlinks is from this gentleman, CSU Wildcat. And his tweet is replying to Udi's tweet from Udi, where them are. I have no idea if anyone has ever pronounced that, so I don't know how it's actually pronounced. But Udi is saying, he's talking about vaults, which are from 2016. And vaults are this way of like having your funds be protected even if you accidentally leak the private key and an attacker gets it. And this is an ingenious idea, and it's very, very old. And we could have had it 10 years ago. And we're going to get into why we don't have it. But the point is, Daniel then replies saying, oh, I wonder why we don't have it. It's because the 110ers held CTV hostage so that they could get their own soft fork, their own pet idea. And the thing is, this is no different from what happened back with SegWit itself. And then there was the block size debate, and everyone, plays tug of war, and they say, you know what? Since overwhelming consensus is needed, or at least no one wants to go on a limb and do something controversial that they might get blamed for, we can all hold each other hostage. We can just hold a gun to everyone's head. And so this is something that I wrote about in December 2024. So more than 18 months ago. And I wrote, because we were all required to weigh in, the technical community, they wanted everyone's opinion on different covenants. And so you had to weigh in, and you had to write the covenant support rationale, which I did. And mine is in multiple parts. And I have a part 1 where I say we should activate all these soft forks, which we should, but we won't, but we should. And I have a bunch of parts about that. And then part 3, I have about the gatekeepers and saboteurs. So I'm just going to read this to you because it's quite important. And this sentence is the important one, where I say, an improvement in Bitcoin technology would be a disaster for many people, and then I have 8 groups of people. And this is what I really need people to understand, is there are an enormous number of conflicts of interest in Bitcoin. And you have many different groups: developers, users, miners, investors, consultants, podcasts, expert media personalities, the people who do the books, the people who do the conferences. So sometimes things align. Like developers, they like it when stuff is complicated because it means they have a lot of work. So they love the Lightning Network. They love Arc. The more complicated, the better. But that's bad for users. It's kind of good. The complexity is kind of good for the conference people because it means that there's something new to explain on stage, where if Bitcoin just worked perfectly, there'd be less of a reason. You just go on stage and you just say, oh, it worked perfectly again. Users and investors, users are using every day the software. Investors maybe only buy and hold, and they don't necessarily care as much about the network itself. So you see, this is the difference between like a Michael Saylor or even one of these store value people versus the ordinals people, or versus someone who is actually using Bitcoin for purchases. The miners, sometimes, with transaction fees. So, okay, this is just to set the stage. Even within these groups, like what's good for some miners is not necessarily good for the other miners as they compete. What's good for some developers is not necessarily good for other developers. So for example, when most of the OpenSats grants that are given are terrible for Bitcoin development, because they give them to the wrong people, and this is discouraging to the real developers. So they give them to the evil developers, and then we're all stuck with the demoralization of the good developers. And so even within the groups, there's an enormous conflict of interest. It's unending. But in particular, among my list, when I say when Bitcoin technology improves, 8 different groups of people are harmed. And these are the people who fight tooth and nail to keep Bitcoin terrible. And, just want to say like in particular, 7 and 8, which are 7 is past authors of a soft fork and 8 is the current authors of a soft fork. The past authors, they want to pull up the ladder behind them. It's like you get into Harvard or something. When you're trying to get into Harvard, you want it to be really hard. But then once you've gotten in, oh, excuse me, you want it to be really, really easy. You want it to be very, very easy so that you can get in. But then once you've gotten in, you're like, oh, I want it to be really, really hard now. And that's why don't we just activate all these soft? We have like roughly 18 soft forks. We could activate them all tomorrow, and we should. Now, I don't want to dwell on this too much because you can read the list for yourself. But it's in current authors of a soft fork. Unfortunately, today everyone thinks you can only do one at a time. Now, what on earth is the point of all this? Well, Cold Card, they would suffer as a result of Op Vault being or user-friendly multisig because you don't need a Cold Card if the software works. So you don't need they want it to be terrible because this is their business model, is to solve a problem for you. So if the Bitcoin network can solve the problem, then Cold Card can't charge you money to solve the problem. Unfortunately, I think this is the tip of the iceberg. I think even when we hear complaining from people, so for example, number 6, I say stuff like, what do I say? Okay, number 4, I say Op Vault and improved multisig. These directly compete with BitGo, for example. So I didn't say Cold Card because I had no idea anyone would even care about Cold Card. But, and this is nothing against BitGo. I'm just saying this is a conflict of interest. Everyone who specializes in custody, fire blocks, and all that stuff, this is just one example, but it's of a pervasive phenomenon that has spread like a cancer everywhere. And this brings me to my next link, the third link, which is from CB Spears. And he says, he's talking about, who should we blame for all the endorsement of the Cold Cards? And he says, well, the maxi Puritan urge to blame influencers or interests, blah, 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 blah. Misses the point. It's the Puritan maxi culture that is the underlying problem, which is, he's right. And then he says, you don't need to apologize for recommending Cold Cards. You do need to self-reflect about assigning moral good and trust to whoever can emulate the in-group jargon most efficiently. So yeah, of course, we're talking about certain people show up and they can pretend to be a Bitcoiner in a very convincing way. This is like your Corey from Swan. This is like Samson Mao. This is like Michael Saylor. This is like, NVK, obviously. There's many examples of these. These are fake people. And in fact, there's a whole essay about this. I don't remember what year it was written, but it's a phenomenal essay that everyone should read, have part of their toolkit. And it is called Geeks, Mops, and Sociopaths. And this is what it's about. It says when a new subculture emerges, there are some people who are very good at pretending. And then there are people who are legitimately important in the subgroup on their merits. But they, each real person will have some wrinkles or some kind of, they have some kind of quirk or some kind of thing. Whereas the sociopath will just lie with him, and they can get like 100%. They just cheat on the test and they just lie. Whereas the genuine. So anyway, you should read the essay. And the question is, can we fix the sociopath invasion? Which brings me to my next link, which is Nick Carter. He says, Bitcoin, quote, Bitcoin maximalism is over. Bitcoin culture is over. Bitcoin influencers are over. Every popular hardcore Bitcoin figure has disgraced themselves in some way. But then Nick continues to say, Bitcoin will remain beneficially stripped of the cult around it. Close quote. Now, I hope that that's true, but I don't know. I mean, why would it be true? Because of a couple embarrassing things. There's 2 pieces of writing. One, these are the next 2 links, which are this book, The Innovator's Dilemma, and it's on my bookshelf downstairs. Otherwise, I'd hold it up, but I have it, the real book, and it's a very good book, and it is about when you do everything right and go out of business. Because you are narrowly focused on your niche, your little, you learn this is how this industry works and this is how to meet the needs of the customers as best we can. And you meet them better and better and better. And you don't realize that lots of other stuff is changing. The world is changing. Like in the beginning of Lord of the Rings, Galadriel says the world's changing. And so you miss out on that. And so you're just really, really good. You're the best in the world at running Blockbuster or something. And in order to understand why streaming would be good, you'd need to know a lot about internet speeds and will computers actually become cheaper? And so it's like the world is like high dimensional place. So part of the point of the book is that we should expect companies to just go out of business and come. But if you want to understand this book, The Innovator's Dilemma, which is, I think, a difficult book, you got to be packing some IQ points to digest the book. There's also an essay, which is also difficult, but it's much shorter. And it does have a lot of repeated examples. And this essay is called Evolving to Extinction. It's from 2007. It's by our friend Eliezer Yudkowsky, crazy AI curmudgeon. But, the man can write an essay. And it's a very good essay about how sometimes a species will evolve and get too good at, reproducing in a narrow sense, and they will lose access to the bigger ecological niche. It could even be that they specialize so much that then as soon as there's an ice age or something, the whole species dies, and there's not enough individual creativity, like not enough variation remains. So anyway, it's a hard essay, I think, also, generally speaking. But I think you could read this essay and then read the book, or skim the book, or have AI explain to you or something. And this is what I think we've done in Bitcoin. We have evolved to extinction. We're very good at our zone, and I think the world has changed around us in terms of people like stable coins. There's a lot of cryptography, PhD style research on stuff. There's stuff like, there's weird stuff like BitVM, but there's stuff like ZK stuff, snarks, etc. Computers, internet speeds have been improving this whole time. There's the AI coding revolution. So we've evolved into our niche, but I think I worry that we cannot. I worry and on one hand, just speaks to how likely it is that Bitcoin is killed off and replaced by something in general. But on top of that, we have to add the likelihood that, how powerful is culture, and how easy is it to change the culture really? I think very, very, very hard. People will be back at it. There won't be any turnover everyone will keep getting their information from the same podcasters. The mining pools will continue. They've evolved to evade. Everyone has evolved to evade accountability. What we really need is for someone like Mike Collier's CEO of Foundry, or at least he was last time I checked, to say, you know what, if Bitcoin's not at $200,000 per coin next year, I'm going to resign. We need someone like that, someone who takes extra accountability, not who shirks and evades like a spineless coward, which is what basically everyone has decided to do. It's not just Foundry USA, although certainly they have, and certainly Ava Chow has, and certainly everyone has. Everyone just says, well, yeah, if we go out on a limb and we do some soft fork and something bad happens, then we'll be blamed, whereas if we just do nothing. And, how is that any different from what we as libertarians we criticize all the time? We criticize, hey, in government, if we eliminate farm subsidies or something, it saves the taxpayer like 25 cents. But the benefits are concentrated in one group that whines and complains. And then, of course, you multiply that by 10,000 programs, and then, believe it or not, before you know it, you're paying more than 50% of your income in taxes for a bunch of inefficient junk. But this is the exact same stuff that we would complain about as libertarians is present throughout Bitcoin. And I don't even know if it can be fixed at this point. My guess is it cannot. be fixed. But I hope that I'm wrong about that. That would be great. So that's my links. Now I have more to say, but probably push it into a later video. Some random stuff. Information about the fork. You go to drivechain.dev. That will take you to a link. It will take you to more links. You can go to ecash.com. You can go to github.com /ecash-com, it's the organization. So there's a fast facts repository there that has many facts about how to mine. Now also, we do these things that dry run. We do a test hard fork, and we're currently on dry run 3. If you go to drynet.drivechain.dev, it will redirect you to number 3, which is the current one. And you can kind of practice if you're like someone who's like, oh, what's going to happen during the hard fork? You can practice today and figure out what will happen. And this is with, fake. This is a fake network that will just be deleted. So that may help. Some questions that people asked. Shouldn't you delay because this is the only way people can get the hard fork coins is if they self-custody, and now this is bad for self-custody? Well, I'm not sure it really is bad for self-custody. I think it's bad for cold card, but I don't know if people are going to say, you know what I need to do right now is unlock my Trezor and send everything to Coinbase. How many people are doing that? I would think not that many. Certainly, I do think that the calendar year 2026 is probably a terrible one to launch a software project, especially a crypto project, because of this LLM revolution. So that does bother me, but I think I really, really, really don't want to even think about any delay, because it's always easier to delay, and also becomes like a matter of integrity. It's like, oh, you say something will happen on a certain date, and then you say some new date, and then all the reasons will apply double to move to another day. Will you still do daily videos after the fork? No, probably not. It's like special August only thing. Can you edit the eCash hard fork to give everyone the eCash to basically erase the cold card theft transactions? No, this would be a terrible idea for many different reasons, but it's intriguing. But no, we don't want to be editing with this. But here's the thing: is even though I feel terrible for the victims of this theft, I really do. I can only imagine what that would be like to just lose all the coins and be betrayed by the. But the thing is, would I rather have NVK and all of his customers, or would I rather have some hacker? Well, I would rather have the allegiance of the hacker, honestly. That's just the truth. But so even if I wanted to, I wouldn't. So I don't know. So I'm sorry. I know that's a lot of people maybe don't want to hear that. Okay, I'll see everyone tomorrow in another video.